Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to a Tin Dog podcast. I know I usually just deal with Doctor Who, but forgive me, I'm a Douglas Adams fan, and so that's why this time I'm talking about this whole new series of Dirk Gently. I will put my hand straight up and say I preferred these three stories hand over heart. I preferred them so much more than I preferred Sherlock. These are my kind of detective stories, taken from a literary source and presented slightly different from their original intention. Yes, I think these three stories are better than the new Sherlock. As I can see you're deleting me from your RSS feeds, let me defend that by saying, you're wrong, they're great. No, not a particularly well thought out argument. Perhaps I should say something more than that. As you can hear by scrolling back and listening to one of my old podcasts, I think it's about number 156, the original Dirk Gently was great. Yes, Mangum is slightly the wrong shape, but he does have that foreign bearing, as described in the books. He's a lot more suitable than, say, Harry Enfield, although Harry Enfield is, of course, I'm trying to be polite here, the right shape to play him. There was definitely a memo sent after that first pilot episode of Dirk Gently all around the BBC, saying something along the lines of, well, it's a lovely programme, you can make some more, just there's only room for one time traveller at the BBC, so if you'd like to not do any time travel, that'd be really helpful. There are two Dirk Gently novels. The first one was pilfered to a certain extent for the pilot. The second story, dealing with Norse gods, hasn't been touched with a barge pole. However, the feel and certain things that are mentioned in passing in both novels are mined to a certain extent here. So they're not adaptations in the way that you would get, say, a Poirot on ITV. They're more reimaginings of the original texts. Doesn't mean that they've ignored it. They have got some fantastic writers. These people are responsible for some very, very good things. One of the writers is responsible for one of my favourite films of all time, which is Frequently Asked Questions About Time Travel. No, they're great. But let's examine all three in turn. Now, originally I was going to talk about each episode as they were broadcast and do podcasts that week. However, I got completely behind, so I hope you don't mind indulging me while I just bomb through all three. It does make more sense. You see, I'd like to give them all titles like Friends episodes. For example, City of Death could be described as the one with the chickens and the one-eyed green man. That kind of thing. Being Dirk Gently, I can talk about something else. So, episode 1, which I think according to the BBC website is called Episode 1, would be, well, let's call it the one with the... We could call it the one with the horoscopes. Not a bad reintroduction. The guy playing Gilks, very good. It's the guy from the very first series of Being Human. Stuck in a world of playing policeman. Well, we'll have to let him off for that one, I think. And this story, I think for me, was the weakest of all three. That's not saying it's badly written. It was nicely confusing, had a nice ending. It had the feel of a Randall and Hopkirk deceased story. Perhaps the reboot with Reeves and Mortimer, only obviously no one was a ghost. It's difficult to discuss a detective programme that you may or may not have seen, especially if you haven't seen it and I don't want to give things away. The interconnectedness of Gently's investigations really mined here, and there are themes and other things worked out really, really well. Similarly to the first one, you can't really talk about it without giving too much away. This one, the one we'll call the one with the robots, is for me the absolute pinnacle of this series. Its heart's in the right place, it deals with issues, well, you know, the way that Star Trek Next Generation used to. It's also got lovely moments, like Dirk trying to find out the results and the reasons he was expelled. All of that is great. And because you may have some foreknowledge from reading the books, that might wrong-foot you on a whole extra level. The third one, being the one we'll call the fit-up, well, that one's fairly self-explanatory. Somebody's knocking off Dirk's former clients, and the only connection they have is that they are Dirk's former clients. Again, when you find out what's actually going on, it's a reference to something that happens in the first Dirk book. These are tremendously well made, and I want them to go on and on and on. Perhaps one day they'll make a full-length version where they do deal with Norse gods. That I would pay to watch. It's the essence of Adams that's lived on. Yes, there are some, Shada moments in the novels, but they're not here. If Douglas Adams was still alive, he would be the executive producer on this, helping people along and giving them ideas. He wouldn't have been hired as a writer. My God, would be here all day waiting for him to publish something. Perhaps they'll start taking stuff from Salmon of Doubt at some point. Now, I would review the DVD, but as I wasn't sent one, I can't. I watched them on BBC4, just like an ordinary punter. So I'll bid you farewell, and speak to you all very soon about something probably Doctor Who related. So until then, be seeing you. The Tin Dog Podcast is proud to announce a wonderful competition. You can win a signed copy of the book Shada, signed by Gareth Roberts. The prize has been marvellously provided by those really, really nice people at ForbiddenPlanet.com. For a direct link, check the main Tin Dog Podcast page. To win this prize, all you have to do is answer this very, very simple question and email me the answer. Name another Doctor Who story written by Douglas Adams. Send your answer and your address so I can post the book to you to tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. Clearly marked Shada competition. Good luck and thanks for entering. You've still got some time to enter because the competition won't be drawn until the 1st of May. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.